Welcome to this talk. Now, last year we talked to Michael Osh and Dean Rainey. Now, Michael became paralysed after the COVID vaccines. And when we last talked to him about a year ago, a little over a year ago now maybe, he was in a pretty bad way. In fact, we were concerned about him, very concerned about him. But since then, he's improved quite a bit. So we're going to catch up with that story now. Now, this is recorded in some films that Dean has made. And this is the zerospike site here. This was the original film here. You can watch it directly from the site, completely free, about Michael's original problems. This is the trailer, which I'm going to play you this trailer in a minute, for the follow-up version of the film here, which again you can watch directly from the site. And I'll put the link to that if you want to watch the full film. Now, in this film, we do talk quite a lot about medical treatments, and I can't stress enough that this is not medical advice. Always consult your own doctor, obviously. It's one man's experience. So let's take it as one man's experience. I've no financial interest in this. Neither of the participants have got financial interest in this. We just put it forward as one man's experience. Always go to your own doctor. It's not medical advice. Let's watch the trailer of the film, and then we'll go on to the interview, which is really quite illuminating and quite encouraging, quite uplifting in quite a lot of ways.
20 years ago, I walked across the country. I did a documentary called Walking the Wisdom of the Road. And it's a documentary on walking. And this is tougher than that.
Hey Dean, it's Michael, how are you? I'm dealing with these spinal lesions and I'm trying to go down the rabbit hole to figure out what's happening to me, and there's so little information out there about the vaccines and COVID. And my first doctor totally thought that the spike protein was dangerous, but they wouldn't go on record. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in doing a documentary on what's happening to me right now. Give me a call, we can talk about this.
If anyone chooses to not get vaccinated, there will be consequences.
Ignore nasty, ignore anti-maskers. Take that shot.
The average doctor that prescribed these vaccines, they actually made a lot of money.
And those who questioned and challenged the narrative were portrayed as dangerous and spreading disinformation.
They don't understand why it's happening. I think they do. They just don't want to admit it.
We imposed measures on people in this country. We are now turning our back on someone like Michael, and I know he's not alone.
So are the vaccines safe and effective?
No.
I can't walk. My hands barely open. I have a spike protein infection.
Spike proteins are now known to damage various parts of the body. They seem to damage different organs in different people.
I too was injured by the COVID injection, and I was looking constantly for some way of clearing the spike protein from my body.
I'd tried many other protocols. None of them really did much.
We think that virtually everyone will have this pathological toxic spike protein in the body.
It feels like I've been put out to pasture. It feels like I've been left here to die.
And I said, no, there is hope. We do have something that takes the spike protein out now.
I believe there's hope for people who have had COVID, long COVID, spike injuries, etc., as we've been talking about.
Hi Michael, it's really lovely to see you. We're all going to work together to get you better.
I can't deny the fact that it has been a game changer for me.
He goes, Tiffany, I haven't been able to straighten my fingers in 5 months. He was celebrating.
Without hope and without a purpose in life, there's no reason to live. And now I find I have a purpose again, and it makes me feel human.
I am delighted to welcome you and to welcome back Michael Osh and Dean Rainey, all the way from Canada. We're going to talk to Dean first of all, but Michael, you're looking so much better than last year, my friend. It's really good that you're here.
I feel a lot better. I feel so much better. So thank you, John.
It's really great that we're seeing you so much better. Dean, you've made a really good film last year, and you've done an update this year. You're a professional filmmaker, quite well known in Canada. Do tell us about them, please.
Yeah, I've been a filmmaker for, since I can remember my teenage years, kind of like Michael as well. He's been a long-time filmmaker. And so it was Michael actually who reached out to me when he was experiencing everything that he was last year, or the year before, I guess, 2 years ago. Man, wow, time flies. And he reached out and said, something's happened to me. I've been down the rabbit hole trying to figure out what it is. Do you want to try to make a documentary about this? And so that's what we did. We kind of set out to follow his journey as he tried to figure out what was going on with his body, what was happening with him. And his original pitch to me was, we're going to find out what's going wrong with me. We're going to find out how to solve it, heal my body, and then we're going to show everybody else. But unfortunately, that's not the first film we got to make, because as you watch it, you can see, it's called Why Can't We Talk About This? Because no one will talk about this. He struggled really hard to get acknowledgement from his doctors. And, without acknowledgement, you can't get healing. You can't, get treatment. And so it was not the movie we set out to make, but I think it was a powerful movie. A lot of people, Michael's story resonated with them. They connected to him. And from that movie, even though it has a downer ending, after you got a lot of support, right? Mm-hmm. Like emotional support, suggestions of protocols of what to take. And as we were going through all that, we thought, wow, maybe we can make a movie finally about your healing, right?
Yeah, that was the idea. Right after the interview we did last May, which came out in June of last year, I was at the point where I was laying in my bed and I could not move at all. I thought I was going to die within 5 or 6 months. I didn't think I had much time left.
My assessment was similar, Michael, at that time.
Yeah. And after the interview with you, I had a bunch of people reach out and help me. I started hearing about alternate treatments to denature the spike protein, to get it out of your body. And the first thing I started with was methylene blue. And I did some methylene blue, and it helped. A few days later, I started on augmented NAC, augmented NAC, and immediately I started getting more mitochondrial energy. I was able to sit up in my wheelchair now for 10 to 12 hours a day, where before I could not sit for more than 2 or 3 hours in my wheelchair. It was just physically exhausting just doing something like that. And that's the big thing, is finding these new therapies. I know so many people who are vaccine injured or who have lost loved ones as a result of the vaccine, and I see the anger in them, and I resonate with it. I understand it. I've had that anger. Yeah. But I know that anger does not solve the problems. It just keeps you focusing on the problem. So I started working on the solutions, and methylene blue and augmented NAC were the first step. I started doing red light therapy, and those three combinations really, really helped get rid of the spike protein first from getting it off my ACE2 receptors and clearing it into the blood biome, and then with the methylene blue actually being able to expel it from my body and actually getting lower spike protein counts. And as a result, allowing my body to actually produce mitochondrial and start the healing process.
Just take us back a couple of years, Michael. You were a long-distance walker, working actively. What actually went wrong in your life?
Well, back in the late 1900s or like 20th century, last century, as I can say, I went through a divorce, which was, a big emotional shock to me.
Sure.
And at that point, I was kind of lost. I didn't know what to do. And it was at that point that I decided to go for a walk across the country. And
as you do.
Well, it was either that or kill myself, and I'm not that kind of a person. So I decided I'd try a better option. And
we are talking about Canada here, aren't we?
Yeah, it took me. It took me a total of 14 months over 2.5 years or over 3.5 years to walk across the country. Yeah. And you know what? It taught me so much about finding solutions to problems, and it's changed my life. And it allowed me to approach this situation with the same problem-solving idea. You know, I mean, there's things we can do, first of all, before we even get into physical things to change, to change it. The first thing I deal with is breathing, and I mentioned that in the second part of the documentary. Every day I get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, and I'm doing parasitic breathing, like Wim Hof breathing. And I do that for 20 minutes, followed up by nitric oxide breathing, where I breathe and hum. And I do that for an hour. And that gives me enough mitochondrial energy to open up my hands, to be able to stretch, to be able to start my day. You know, and that's the first thing. The other thing that I'm really concentrating now on is nutrition. Getting all the gluten, all the sugar, and all the dairy out of my diet. Keeping it as much anti-inflammatory, almost like a swank diet or a MS diet. And I found that was very beneficial to keeping the inflammation out of my body, because that's what happens in a lot of cases now. When we deal with spike protein infections as a result of a COVID vaccine or any type of spike protein infection, we're dealing with inflammation. And the first thing that I know that I needed to do was to get to a healthy place, to allow myself. And I mean, for whether the spike protein, where it resides in your body is irrelative, it's how it affects you. And whether for me it was neurological, it could be respiratory, it could be cardiovascular, it could be turbo cancers. There are so many ways it affects the body, but the underlying thing is a spike protein infection that causes inflammation. So I know that first of all, I needed to deal with that. And that's what I've done with dealing with the spike protein, the methylene blue, the augmented NAC, as well as, don't get me wrong, the nicotine patches. I did that. I tried ivermectin. I did the McCullough protocol. I did an early McCullough protocol, the ARTIST protocol. All those helped move the needle a bit. But it was really when I combined methylene blue, augmented NAC, and red light therapy. And that's something I do every day now. I do take a break from methylene blue. I microdose it, so I'm not taking a regular dose, which would be, say I weighed 180 pounds or 80 kilograms. For methylene blue, I would take roughly 1 milligram per kilogram if I had like malaria or some rare blood disorder. And instead, I dropped that down where I do like 20 milligrams a day, 5 out of 7 days of the week. The augmented NAC, I started on 1 pill. I'm up to 6 pills a day now. And I tell you, it really helps me get the energy I need. I get out of bed now at 10 in the morning, and I don't go to bed until 12 at night. And I'm around in my wheelchair. I go to the store. I'm getting out now. I'm actually starting to have a life where before I really didn't have that, in the documentary that we did, the second epilogue, at the very end, you see me standing up, which was an amazing feeling to get to stand up again. But the biggest problem I'm dealing with now is that I've been denied by the Vaccine Injury Support Program of Canada. They basically have said that based on a study in 2022, that because there's no gadolinium present in my MRI, that it's based on here's the term, based on the probability or the balance of probability that you don't have a infection as a result of a vaccine. And I mean, the science and the way they come to that conclusion, you know what, I'm going to bring it up in my appeal. But the problem is that to appeal this, it'll probably be a year or more waiting for the appeal. And in the meantime, I don't have the money to continue on with my therapy. I'm not standing anymore. I can't afford the physio. I've sold my house. I'm in debt. And it's really a shame that the Vaccine Injury Support Program, which has now been canceled in Canada, it's now been taken over by the Public Health Agency of Canada and rebranded as the Vaccine Impact Assistance Program. I'm hopeful that, let me say it this way, before it was run by a third-party contractor, much like an insurance company, they were denying over 93% of the claims. And, and it would take 18 months or more. And there were people who have been waiting 2 years and still haven't got the response from the Vaccine Injury Support Program. And it was being run like an insurance company, like deny, collect profits. And the Vaccine Injury Support Program, I believe at the very end of it, had collected $56 million in administrative fees and paid out less than $15 million to the recipients. And that's just a shame. And, my hope is that the Public Health Agency of Canada takes it over and that mindless and heartless bureaucrats don't care where the money goes, as opposed to greedy corporations who are only worried about their bottom line. So, that's another aspect of it that really, dealing with the problems is one thing, but looking for solutions is what I'm really all about.
Mm. Can we do a bit of a timeline for your story, Michael? You first took the COVID vaccines roughly when, and what vaccines did you take?
I took a Pfizer in 2020. In 2021, I took an AstraZeneca. In early 2022, I took my first Moderna. And then on October 13th of 2022, I took my fourth vaccine, which was also a Moderna.
So you've had you had the Pfizer and AstraZeneca and 2 Modernas. How long after those did you notice the paralysis?
36 hours.
After the fourth one?
After the fourth one, I was walking home from an event in my hometown where Dean and I both used to live, and my legs started to drag. The next morning I woke up and it wasn't that bad. I rebounded. It was more like a mitochondrial myopathy where I got exhausted and the mitochondria wasn't producing and my legs started to drag. And after resting for 12 hours, I got up and was fine, but I kept declining over the next few days. And it was a week later that I had what I call a micro seizure, where I blacked out while driving a school bus. And I didn't crash it. I pulled over, stopped. But at that point, my eyes were fluttering and my ears were buzzing. And at that point, I went back to my doctor and I had my license pulled. And that's when we started looking for an MRIs and finding out what it was really all about. And what we have discovered is that there are 2 lesions on my body. One is 2.8 centimeters, or was 2.8 centimeters, covering my C1 and C2, right up by my medulla oblongata, my medulla.
This is very high in the spinal cord.
Yeah. Is on my T4.
Right, so a bit lower down on the spinal cord. Yeah. And we have seen images of those, that they are lesions on the spinal cord that are pathologically diagnosed. It's strange, isn't it? You took the first 3 and were you perfectly okay after the first 3 vaccines? It was just the fourth one that caused
after the first one, I felt a bit woozy. I wasn't really sick, but I didn't feel great. And they kind of said that might happen. And I was like, okay. The second and third one, I didn't feel anything at all. And even after I took the fourth one, it wasn't until later the next day, after walking like 4 or 5 kilometers, that I noticed that it was affecting my walking.
Yeah. So that was within 36 hours. What happened after that? How long did the deterioration take? Because last year when we saw you were in a state of, you were basically paralyzed everywhere, weren't you?
And over the next 4 months, it got to the point where I was having to use a walker now.
Yeah.
After a year, I could barely walk at all. After a year and a half, I was hospitalized again. And that's where it really went downhill. And after the hospital, they had no place for me, neuro rehab. I wasn't close enough. I wasn't acute enough for neuro rehab. So they sent me to this long-term care home where I've been now for 15 months or 16 months. Yeah. Yeah.
And when you started taking the, Did you start taking the augmented NAC and the methylene blue at the same time, or did you start
within
those at
3 days
times?
of each other? I started them. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And what did you notice after that?
Well, within 2 days, my fingers started opening up again. Like right now, I've been up for a few hours, so they're a bit crinkled. But literally, when I woke up in the morning after 2 days, my fingers were straight. I could move my arms. I had more maneuverability. I had more energy. And as I kept increasing the augmented NAC, I kept getting more energy and being able to stay up for longer periods of time without crashing.
Dean, when you made your film last year, Michael's in a pretty bad way, really. What was your assessment of him last year, just as a friend seeing him?
Well, it's heartbreaking because he's a friend, and following him through this and just facing barriers, blockades. There's a lot of stigma with vax injury right now that we're just really hoping we can overcome, that people just, like the movie title, they don't want to talk about this. So very frustrating, and not being able to offer any hope at the end of that film. I'm not that kind of filmmaker usually, so that was tough. But, and then getting the chance to make this epilogue, this sort of extra act here and continue the story has really helped me too, like emotionally and just big picture kind of living in this world, because, it was very dark there for a while. But then following Michael and honestly, like filming him standing, I was in tears, and I'm just sitting there filming him because I hadn't seen him do anything for 2 years. And it was really dark. And so for me, even, it was uplifting. So I'm really happy to be able to share that with people out there, because I know people are so curious as to how is Michael doing? I get that all the time. Emails, letters, how's he doing? Does he try this? And so now we actually get to respond positively to all that feedback and say, yes, we're seeing a difference being made.
And what improvements have you noticed? You mentioned the standing there. Well, what else have you noticed that's improved since you started these treatments?
I'm taking this as a dual approach. I'm dealing with the spike protein infection, and the augmented NAC, the methylene blue, and the red light have really helped with that.
Yeah.
But I'm also looking at neuroregenerous because I have a neurological problem. I have this lovely, on my shoulder here, an arc microcurrent device that sends out microcurrents and helps reestablish neural pathways. And I've noticed my toes moving again. That's very beneficial. I've started doing stem cell patches specifically for my neurodegeneration. Those I've only started in the past 3 weeks, so I'm still going to hold off on any comment on that. But, here's the thing is, if you're dealing with, a vaccine injury or a spike protein infection from the COVID, first, let's deal with the underlying problem, which is the spike protein. And then we can look at whether it's a neurological, a cardiovascular, any type of other disorder, and deal with the overlying issues. And that's the way I've approached it. And, I'm very beneficial. I'm very hopeful. I'm very sanguine, actually, is probably a better word to look at it. Considering
laid back, yeah.
Considering the travesty that's happened to me, I have to be optimistic. I have to laugh. I have to look at the positives of things. And, it's got me a long way in my life. When I walked across this country, John, I always looked at the positive things. Like if there was a hole in my shoe and it was raining out, I thought, okay, it's a good way to wash my feet. I have to look at the positive of this. Like, yeah, I can't walk. I can't do up my own pants. I can't change myself. But you know what? I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of people reaching out. I have people who care for me every day. And that frame of mind allows me to get through these things.
I think what you've done, Dean, as well shows the power of filmmaking. I mean, we're going to put the links to your films. So where can people watch these, and what's the cost implications?
Yeah, right now the films are available at zerospike.org/talk about this. I like that website because now we can talk about this. zerospike.org/talk about this. And they are organization that has developed the augmented NAC, and so they have supported the sequel so that we can follow Michael and see what his results are. And that's where you can go. And right now, there's no cost to it. You can watch it for free and see the original film as well. And there's all sorts of other testimonials and information on augmented NAC and other pieces of information there.
Yep. And I think the plan is on this, we'll show maybe show the introduction to the second film.
Yeah, we've got the trailer that you can use.
The trailer.
From and,
yeah. Are you happy for us to use that? We'll play that because I think that summarises things quite nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. How do you see the present and the future going, Michael? I mean, you're going to carry on with the augmented NAC and the methylene blue and the red light therapy?
Yeah, I'm going to continue on with this. I'm hopeful that that I can get some therapy to get up and standing on my feet again. The thing is I want to walk again. I want to take one more step. I want to try. And we have a GoFundMe campaign that we've started in conjunction with the solution to that, and all the funds for that are going to go to my physiotherapy and my massage therapy. That is helping me get back to where I want to go.
Yeah, I think Michael says something very important at the end of the film, is that he's sort of reflecting on everything so far, and he says, if you find something, try it, and if it works, stick with it. And I think that has been an important part of his healing too, is, you can get really distracted trying different things or losing patience or whatever, but he stuck to this protocol and really doubled down on it, and it seems to be giving results.
But was getting some benefit really quite quickly within a few days, which is pretty amazing, given that you were gradually deteriorating before that, Michael. You were actually getting worse. I mean, what's the kind of trajectory now? I mean, when I first met you last year, you were on a downward trajectory, and we were pessimistic at that time. You improved when you started taking the methylene in blue and the augmented NAC and the red light therapy, but how have you been since then? Are you plateaued, or do you think you're still getting a bit better?
I still am getting a bit stronger. Adding the therapies that are directly related to my neuroregenesis have helped me. I'm bending toes now. I'm doing workouts every day, leg workouts, arm workouts. I work with a 6-pound ball. I'm able to lift things where before, like 9 months ago, 10 months ago, I couldn't lift anything. I could barely lift my arm off the bed. And now I get up and I'm able to readjust myself in the chair. All these things are helping. And, one of my favorite quotes is from Winston Churchill. And he says, if you're going through hell, don't stop, keep going. And, that's the truth. And I send that message out to everyone out there who's going through some type of spike protein infection or a long COVID. Keep going. Reach out, look for solutions, and it's by doing that I've been able to move forward. It'd be so easy to scream and yell at the governments, at the corporations, at the health agencies, at my doctors, at my wife at times. I love her, and I love you, Saskia. I just need to say that. But I need to focus on the positive. I need to keep my mind in a positive direction. And that's the only thing that keeps me getting one step closer to walking again.
Will you have another bite at the cherry for the government compensation? Is that on the horizon?
Repeat the question?
Yeah. Have you got any possibility of getting any money from the government compensation scheme in the future?
We're appealing
or is
the
that
process
avenue
right
closed?
now. Right. We're appealing the process right now, John. And the problem with it is, it's a bureaucratic appeal. This is going to take probably 12 to 18 months for the appeal. You have to realize that the new vaccine impact assistance program, which started only on April 1st of this year, is still being set up. There is still not even an appeal process for the new program available for me to view. They've assured me that I was given 60 days on March the 9th of this year, and told I had 60 days to appeal it. But the government has assured me that under the new program, I will have ample time to file an appeal after they have the appeal process.
When the government actually have a program for you to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pity there's not much more macro data available for Canada, really, isn't it? You know, how widespread is this problem? You know, we know from the comments of the videos that lots of people have had similar issues. It's just so frustrating that there seems to be this almost official denial. Data's not put into the public domain.
Yeah, for me, it reminds me of here in Canada, we had the tainted blood scandal a couple of years ago. And the government gaslit and fought that for years. And luckily, there were just people that were relentless and just continuing to do the work, dig up the evidence, make the point, and eventually justice was served. So, I mean, that's all we can hope for this, is that, you know, films like mine and the other ones out there is evidence. We've done the research. We have listed it there, and that sometimes, you know, we just keep pushing on this topic and not give up. And hopefully we'll get some accountability on this.
Yeah, I mean, we had exactly the same problem in the 80s. I remember hearing about the infected blood scandal in the 80s with hepatitis B and HIV and hepatitis C, I think. And it took well over 20 years. In fact, best part of 30 years to come out. And we had the post office scandal in this country as well. That took a similar amount of time. It really is a pity that there's so much... I don't know, just the lack of transparency is just so frustrating, isn't it? I know you share the same frustrations, but
well, and that's why I actually encourage everyone who's going through this not to get overwhelmed by the institutions, by the government, by your doctors, by these things. It's because if you spend all your energy focusing on that, you will not have the energy to actually heal. And I think that's the important thing, and that's why I really. When we started doing the second half of the epilogue to this documentary, it gave me the motivation to say, I can help other people now. Let me tell you what's been working for me, and let me give you some encouragement to keep going, to keep fighting, because I know it's not easy. I walked across the country. That was hard. This is 10 times harder. You know, it's debilitating. It's lonely, it's frustrating, and you know, it's you don't have to do this alone. There are other people out there, and reach out and share that, and sharing the message is what's got me through a lot of it.
And the fact that you're doing this, last year we had a lot of people who were also suffering, leaving comments, writing emails, you know, and this is still going on. You know, to a large extent now, the world's moved on. And to tell you the truth, Michael, you're a bit of an inconvenience, really. You know, we'd rather you know, we'd rather forget about all this and move on. You know, this is the problem. But you know, there's people around the world have been. You know, some people are no longer here, and some people like yourself, Brianne Dressing, others that we've talked to, still suffering on a daily basis. And you know, the fact that you are ignored and gaslit like this is just a complete moral outrage. But unfortunately, that's the world we're living in at the moment. But, anyway, on a brighter note, Dean, are you working on anything interesting now?
Yeah, you know, at the risk of becoming a genre director working in one genre,
I think you are being typecast somewhat.
I recently released a film called The Shot, which is the Sean Hartman story. And Sean Hartman was a 17-year-old boy, hockey player. In order to play hockey, he had to take the vaccine. He took his first Pfizer shot, and a couple of days later, he was rushed to emergency, and they didn't really know what to do with him, gave him a Tylenol, sent him home, and then about 28 days later, he collapsed in the morning at home, cardiac arrest, and died. And so we've been telling that story and looking into that because the importance of that story is that his father, Dan Hartman, has the only lawsuit against Pfizer in North America for wrongful death, and Health Canada as well. So the film is to sort of raise money for Dan's legal fees because we're hoping with a lawsuit moving forward, there will be discovery. And when there's discovery, there's truth. And when there's truth, perhaps there's be accountability and justice. So I've taken that film on as well. And, you know, again, there's lots of barriers to that. Lots of hate mail because I think I'm over the target. Lots of trolls. and threats and all that fun stuff that comes with this. I mean, it just makes me more want to double down, because I feel that somehow the truth, I'm there, and people are threatened by it. And so I guess I just have to keep pushing through.
When do you expect that film to be out, Dean?
Well, right now we're touring Canada with it. We're just going from community to community, because I think it's important to watch this with other people and within community. And then I think in June we'll be releasing it online, and it'll be available to people everywhere. And I'll let you know when that happens.
Please do, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we'd love to talk about that and play some clips. Good news story, Michael. Thank you. I'm cheered up somewhat. Still a long way to go, but last year we were really quite seriously concerned. So, and to see you so positive as well is really quite an inspiration.
Well, John, thank you once again. It's
we
it's
can't
people
work
like
through
you
problems
who give us the forum to speak our truth, that we can change the world. And it's not going to be mainstream media, but thankfully we're living in a world where alternative messaging can get out there. So thank you, John.
Yep, and we will do that. And people leave comments, you can reply to them, connections can be made. And for the people that are still suffering out there, that are being ignored, we are fully empathizing with you. We think this is an outrageous situation, and we need to carry on, and truth will come out. It's just a case of how long it's going to take. And I guess it's been 5 years already, so it's not going to be that quick, but it is trickling out, and long term it's going to come out.
Yeah, it seems like we always get 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah,
but I take hope in that 2 steps forward.
All I want is 1 step forward. That's all I want.
Yeah, I agree. And scientific truth has to come out sooner or later.
And John, hopefully the next time I'm talking to you, I'm standing.
Well, or maybe out for a walk or something. Absolutely, definitely. Yep.
Do
an outside broadcast, Michael. That would be fantastic. Gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for all your. Thank you for having the nobility to share this, Michael, and all your hard work, Gene. We really appreciate what you guys are doing, and thank you for coming on just now.
Thank you, John.